Welcome back. It's time for business, and for that I'm joined by Matthew. Hello, Matthew. So European markets opened a short while ago and they're reacting pretty well to that news of a bailout for Spain's banks.
That's right. The bailout for the banks is going down pretty well with markets here in Europe. It's a sigh of relief, really, that something's been done about it. And also this number of 100 billion feels like a big number to the markets. They're all up there, as you can see, and the IBEX in particular doing well, 5%. It's moving around a lot this morning, but 5% is about where it is at the moment. Asia also had a good day of trading. We can take a look at what happened there. The markets there also finished up. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong, they're over 2%. Shanghai holding back a little bit, and we'll talk about that a bit later. There was some Chinese data out over the weekend that held that back a little bit. And just to mention the euro as well, that's also strengthened against the dollar in trading by almost a cent. Well, as we said, the market's pretty positive and optimistic at the moment about that bailout. Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy of Spain says it's not a bailout, it's a credit line for the banks. Well, whatever it's called, the responsibility for paying back those funds still lies with the Spanish government.
Spain has agreed to a rescue of its troubled banking sector by the Eurozone. Just don't call it a bailout, please.
If we hadn't done what we did over the last 5 months, what we would have faced yesterday would have been a bailout of Spain. But as we have been doing our homework for the last 5 months, what was put before us and what was decided on was the opening of a line of credit for our financial system.
A line of credit that could go as high as 100 billion euros. Officials are waiting on the results of 2 independent audits to confirm the final amount. The Spanish government estimates 30% of its banks need recapitalization as they struggle with toxic loans and assets related to the collapse of the real estate bubble in 2008. The assistance will not come with outside control over government budgets, like that imposed on Greece, Ireland, and Portugal when they sought bailouts. But it's still likely to impact the government's balance sheet.
It'll be counted as Spanish public debt, so if the banks and the government's fund are not able to return the money, the state will have to return it.
The government will funnel the money through its fund for orderly bank restructuring. It will be responsible for collecting repayments from the banks with interest and returning that money to the Eurogroup. With the economy stuck in its second recession in 3 years, Spaniards worry the loan means yet more cutbacks. The government has promised the only new reforms will be to its banking sector.
Well, and we're seeing that Bankia, the bank, of course, at the heart of a lot of these problems, is up by 18% this morning. So we'll keep an eye on what's happening today. So Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy said it was a victory for Spain to get that bailout. But one country that it was rumoured was not so happy was Ireland. Now, of course, they had a bailout in 2010, similar amount, 85 billion euros, but they had much more stringent terms attached with the visits from the Troika to see how they're doing. There were reports at the weekend that they weren't happy, wanted to renegotiate their own position. But we've heard that the Finance Minister, Michael Noonan, has said no, they're happy with the bailout they got. They're not looking to renegotiate those terms.
Now, there was also some important data coming out of China at the weekend.
Yeah, that's right, Claire. So I said earlier that the Chinese market wasn't doing quite so well this morning. Now, there was a mixed picture of data coming out of China. We had some figures on exports and imports. Now, those were better than had been expected, so that gave a bit of a boost. But there were also figures on industrial production. That was at 9.6% for the month. Now, of course, that's a really good figure for most economies, but for China, which is really the engine of the world economy at the moment, that's not as high as had been expected. Now, this was all, of course, because at the end of last week we saw China make an interest rate cut. So that gave some clue that perhaps figures weren't going to be quite as good as had been hoped for. Well, anyway, let's take a look now at some more of the day's business news and a boost for the beleaguered Nasdaq stock exchange, still reeling from criticism over the troubled Facebook IPO. Kraft Foods has said it will move to the Nasdaq from its current home, the New York Stock Exchange. The maker of Oreo cookies and Cadbury's chocolate says the move will save it money. It will also gain visibility for its brands from Nasdaq's marketing activities.
Airlines will continue to suffer from high oil prices and the Eurozone crisis in 2012. The industry's IATA group said profits would be 2.4 billion euros this year. That's down more than half from the year before.
And some figures out this morning on French manufacturing production. It was down by 0.7% in April. That followed an increase in March. Overall, production managed a 1.5% rise, but that was as a result of increases in gas and electricity use due to cold weather.
Now, as Matthew was saying a short while ago, the Spanish Prime Minister Mariano Rajoy has described the bailout for Spain's banks as a victory, but he also warned that the economy is likely to get worse before it gets better. For one charity restaurant, an increase in customers shows the depth of the crisis.
Xavi Martinez stops by the bakery to pick up 24 loaves of bread and carries them to the charity. He's been out of work for now 2 years. Since he lost his job, Martinez has volunteered in this restaurant called Calio, or Warm. He was here from the beginning.
This started with 30 people coming. The following week there were 40, and another week 16 more came along. But now we're overloaded with the amount of people. Today, right now, we've got between 700 and 800 people registered.
In recent years, many Spaniards have lost their jobs. Spain's unemployment rate is the highest of the industrialized world, 24.44%. Many people who come here recently had work. Now, some of them have no shelter. Here, people criticize the government's policies.
Instead of collecting millions for them, they need to help people in the sectors that need support. The retired, education, healthcare, students.
Spain has slashed its budget to reduce its deficit and debt. Many feel that this has only brought recession, yet the government says it's only protecting the economy.
And we're finishing with some news from Apple. It's meeting developers today to try and get them excited about creating new apps.
Yes, now of course if you have an iPhone or if you have a phone that operates on the Android system, you know that the apps are really kind of what makes the phone very interesting. So it's important for companies like Apple to keep developers excited, and actually they've seen a drop recently in the number of downloads of free apps. So it's very important for them. They've got this conference in San Francisco this week with developers, and they're trying to get them excited about a new operating system that they're launching. There's also talk that they might be developing their own mapping system, which would mean that Google Maps is no longer the default product on Apple products. Well, in order to get around that, perhaps Google themselves have been presenting their own latest version of a mapping product, and they were showing that last week, and we can take a look at it here. They're hoping, of course, that they'll be able to get one step ahead of whatever Apple might have in store, but as we know, Apple tends to love to make a big fuss when they launch a new product, so who knows what that will look like. But this one uses some new technology, even newer technology, that tries to bring towns to life and really make them look three-dimensional. Also, they are hoping to be able to include very remote areas of the globe that they haven't been able to do before, so we'll see what happens with that.
Pretty impressive images there. All right, thank you very much, Matthew, for that look at the day's business news. Thank you for watching France 24. Stay tuned. Stuart Noble will have the latest headlines in just a few minutes' time.